Well, hey there, everyone. So glad to be there here with you on this very special Mena Lounge. No, it's not Tuesday. This is such a special topic that we decided to have a special day dedicated to it. And today we're all about your health. So important that we focus on our health during menopause. So, hey there, Tara. So if we're going to talk about your heart health during menopause, we have to have the most important person in this conversation right now, Dr. Suzanne Steinbaum, renowned cardiologist. I'm going to see if I can find her here and pull her up let's see, Dr. Suzanne. Popping up. If you have followed her on Instagram, if you aren't following Dr. Steinbaum right now, go follow her. We're going to be talking about her incredible book. She has launched heart programs for the American Heart Association. She's been a national spokesperson. She has had programs in amazing, top hospitals. I feel like I can't talk today. Top hospitals in New York. She's been on the Dr. Oz Today Show, Good Morning America. Oh, I see you here, Dr. Steinbaum. All right, I'm going to grab you up again, send you another invite. There you are. See if you grab that. She's done so many amazing things, and I had the pleasure of meeting her recently at Naomi Watts's summit, and the Pause Summit earlier this year. And heart disease is near and dear to my heart and my family because we all have hypertension at some level, lower or higher. Okay, let's see if I can grab her. Go live. Here she is. So when I met Dr. Suzanne, I knew we had to have her on the Mena Lounge. Of course, there's somebody right outside my window doing something here in my office. So hopefully that won't bother us. All right, Dr. Suzanne, I sent that to you. Let's see. We'll get you here. Almost there. It's the joy of going live. I had to look through my wardrobe. What do I have that's red today for heart? I don't have a lot of red things, but I like this. Oh, I see you coming. There you are. Hi. Let me move back away from my camera. You made it. So glad.
So happy to see you. Thank you so much.
Thrilled to have you. I've been singing all of your praises, everything from, I didn't talk about Heart Tech yet, which is your new med tech company in Odessa, and we're going to really get into that shortly. But I've got, oh my.
Thank you.
Of course, I have marked right here something actually I want to read right away, but of course I have the menopause section all marked right, of course.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're talking about today. But here's something I want to just share. Dr. Suzanne, you wrote this. I know you already know this, but let's start here. You write on page 30, a woman dies about once every minute in the United States from cardiovascular disease. Yeah. More women die from heart disease than all forms of cancer, chronic lower respiratory disease, Alzheimer's disease, and accidents combined. Heart disease rates have started to rise for women ages 35 to 54, an age when most women aren't even thinking about heart disease yet. And here's the last kicker. By the age of 60, half of us will all have heart disease. Dr. Suzanne, thank you for all you do.
I do this every day. And when you read those statistics, it still blows me away. I've been doing this for 20 years. And the stats just in some ways keep getting a little bit worse. Part of that is because we'll spend like 40% of our lives in menopause, and 70% of women will have some form of heart disease during that time. But what's so scary is we used to think young women, and I'm going to say that's women less than 65 years old, were immune. Yeah. And we're watching an increased rate of heart disease in women less than 55 during pregnancy. It's one of the largest causes of poor outcomes and death in pregnancy is cardiovascular disease. Wow. So, everyone has to listen. Thank you. I'm screaming from the mountaintops, if you have a heart, you're at risk. And I keep talking to everyone that when we focus on our hearts, we are going to live in general a healthier life. Heart care is the new self-care.
Especially
It's
during menopause.
especially during menopause. You know, we used to think of like just bubble baths and manicures, and now it's like, no, go get your cholesterol checked, check your blood pressure, know what your sugars are, talk to your family about your family history. This is true self-care.
Yeah.
Knowing what you need to do for yourself to stay healthy. Menopause is challenging for everyone. It's not, you know, it's not just you or me, or it's all of us.
Right.
And how we get through menopause really is going to tell us how we live the rest of our lives. So I just say, like, let's do it with vitality.
Yeah.
Let's do it on our terms, you
Right.
know?
Right. I know we connected on that right away. Like, we want menopausal women to feel sexy and vital and strong, and it starts making sure our hearts are vital and strong. So let's talk about when we're in menopause, why is it that our risk of a cardiac event goes up? Can you share some of the reasons behind that?
It's really staggering to think. When we have estrogen, we are really protected in a lot of ways. Our arteries stay dilated, supple, healthy. And because of that, oftentimes our blood pressures are low. And as we go through menopause, I always say you got to train for menopause like you're training for a marathon. As we go through menopause, the arteries start becoming really stiff and blood pressure goes up. The other thing that happens, cholesterol goes up. LDL, the bad cholesterol, goes up. We know that our belly fat will go up.
Right.
Our sugars will go up. Our weight will go up. So all of these things are risk factors for heart disease. And unless we fight against it, which we can, that's where we end up with some form of heart disease, whether it's hypertension or high cholesterol or metabolic syndrome, diabetes. This is like the natural progression of things unless we do something about it.
And keep it in check with our annual, when we go to the doctor, to know your numbers, right? Know your numbers around your heart.
Yeah, definitely.
So talking about weight gain, I mean, that was one of the reasons why I even started the boss of ours in the first place, is because I had gained weight around the middle, and knowing that I have heart disease in my family, plus I just didn't feel confident, secure. And then I learned from our Dr. Larissa, 34 inches matters, right? Keeping our waist size under 34 inches is a really important indicator. Can we talk more about that to help women understand? It's not about looking cute, although that's like a bonus, right? But it's about our heart. So let's talk about that.
It's really interesting because research shows that belly fat independently increases our risk of heart disease. When we get fat around the middle, and that often happens during menopause, we actually have a reduction in our ability to process sugars. And this is that metabolic syndrome or pre-diabetic condition that can really develop. There's a very clear study that if we gain some weight in our butts, we actually do better than if we gain it in our bellies. So
that's good. I wish we could tell it where to go. Yeah. That's the problem.
Excuse me.
Right. Keep going. Keep moving. Yeah.
Go down.
Right.
But the point really is that we do have to pay attention. And you're absolutely right. Less than 35 inches is really where we want it to be. But understand how tall we are and the composition of our bodies, how much muscle we're carrying. All of these things matter. So when we want to shift our body composition, start doing some cardio. Weight training is very, very important. Increasing that muscle mass actually increases your metabolism and can shift these things.
Yeah.
But we got to get moving.
Got to get moving. That's so important. And I love that you talked about composition, because, in our youth, we would just focus on the scale to get skinny fat, right? So we would really be losing weight, but we're losing muscle, not just fat. And now that in our mature midlife years, we need to lose fat, right? That's what we need to lose. We don't want to lose muscle because we need muscle. Muscle takes a lot of energy. It burns a lot. That keeps our basal metabolic rate up, and that's what keeps us strong too. So lifting weights, eating protein, those are the things we need to do. Otherwise, you lose weight, and the scale is just not always our friend, people. It's just not, because if that number that goes down, if we're losing muscle as quickly as we're losing fat, that's a problem. And because as soon as you start eating, that's why we gain all the weight right back, because we don't have that muscle to to balance out. I love in your book, and if you don't have Dr. Suzanne's book, make sure you get it right after Amazon. You can get it one day. Dr. Suzanne Steinbaum's Heart book, super important. You have a whole chapter on eating, and even there's a grocery list there. I'm like, oh, that's impressive.
I sure that you saw that I mentioned I'm not really a good cook. So anything that is in that book in terms of shopping list or any recipes, trust me, if I could do it, you could do it. But the reality is we really focus on whole foods, nutrient dense foods, getting rid of any package that you have to read the ingredients, forget it. If you don't understand what they are, get rid of it. It's just not worth it. But eating a Mediterranean diet, in my opinion, is the best way to go. Multi-grains, fruit, vegetables, nuts, low-fat foods. Fish is amazing. Omega-3 fatty acids. Nuts, stick in that zone.
Yeah.
And it's going to shift things. The more we eat simple sugars and carbohydrates, this is when everything gets wacky. And that's when things become a problem.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is our brain needs carbs, right? We need carbs. Our body needs carbs, but not when the majority of the foods that we're eating are carbs or highly, highly processed foods. Then we get in trouble. Whole foods first. That's what we always say, whole foods first. Let's talk about some of the symptoms of, and then I want to talk about risks, but symptoms of heart disease, because women can experience a heart attack or stroke in very different experience than men. We have the automatic men thing, like, oh, my arm went numb and then I have the severe chest pain, but it may not be that way for women. Is that right?
You're absolutely right. That is like the typical Hollywood heart attack man, blue in the face, sweating, his chest, right? Women, I always say, listen, we in general are much more subtle, so it's no shock that our symptoms are going to be more subtle. So
I like it.
Chest pain is true. It is one of the symptoms, but it's also could be shortness of breath, jaw pain, back pain, nausea, flu-like symptoms, even trouble sleeping could be one of the issues. Every time I bring this up, and I live in New York City and I talk to women in New York, everyone's like, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack every day. You know, I can't sleep and I feel terrible. But I always say to this, you know, exercise is so good for this. If you know how you feel on a daily basis and you're moving and exercising and all of a sudden it becomes really hard for you to do your normal life, think about your heart. You know, it's very possible that it could be the problem.
Heart. Yeah, you know, I read an article that it's men or partners who often diagnose women's heart disease or cardiac event because, you know, women, we just tend to soldier on when things get difficult, and they notice in their partner, you know, your breathing is a bit more labored, or, you know, things are not right and we need to go to the hospital. Have you heard that before, or
No, I've heard this a lot. I think as women, we tend to just literally put ourselves on the bottom of the list. We're running through our lives. We just ignore anything that's bothering us. We're fine. We're good. We can handle it. We've got it. And oftentimes it's our partners, the person that's next to us every day, that sees a change in our ability to exercise or do something. And like you mentioned, I hear men bring in their wives and say, she can't breathe anymore when she's walking, or I'm walking faster than she is. What's going on?
Right.
And that's often the diagnosis of heart disease.
Yeah. So people next to you, my husband and I had talked about this. And so we sort of have a code word between us that we know we're going to pay attention to each other now that, you know, we're midlifers and empty nesters. We don't have other people, little people to pay attention to. We're staring at each other all the time, you know, to notice if if there's a change, because, you know, you're going through life, you don't always notice, especially as women. So I really encourage women to talk to their partners and have a code word or something, you know, where we can acknowledge that.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, that'd be just, you know, we don't pay attention to ourselves. That's why we're talking about heart care is the new self-care during menopause, especially.
Yeah.
So you were talking a little bit about training for menopause, like a marathon, and tell us a little bit more what you meant by that. I love that.
I really think that we underestimate the impact of like moving, of really like exercising, and not just on the weekends or once in a blue moon, but having a routine and regular exercise strategy is probably the best thing you can do for your heart. It decreases blood pressure, decreases cholesterol, gets that belly fat down, gets your sugars down, and actually makes you feel happier. Yeah. So on every level, exercise does everything for you. It's truly the best medication. Mm-hmm. And are you ready for this? Decreases the incidence of hot flashes. Yeah. So I think on that front, if you really look at the best way to get through menopause, just start moving. You know, make exercise a regular part of your life.
Now, I know that you've been a spokesperson for Peloton also. So how do you feel? There's a little bit of controversy, not about Peloton. I actually use the Peloton guide. I love the guide, the live coach. But what about the fact that women, especially, you know, before we were midlife or perimenopausal, we're working out, you know, at a very intense level. And so then there's all that cardio, and then we get to midlife or menopause or postmenopausal, and that high level of cardio, maybe HIIT workouts, create cortisol, stress in the body. So where's the fine line between getting that exercise in and then creating cortisol due to stress related from working out so intensely?
What we've learned is moderate intensity exercise is actually the best for you. And figuring out your moderate intensity heart rate zone really depends on your age. I think it's there on the Peloton. It's often in the gym on a lot of the cardio equipment. 220 minus your age, and you take that number, multiply it about 75%, and that gives you your sweet spot number. But that moderate intensity is actually what gets your arteries as healthy as they can be. You don't need to push it as hard as we thought you did to really get the best heart health benefit. You should never end exercise and feel like you're exhausted, you're going to pass out or throw up. And we used to think that was the best thing for you.
Oh, that was the prize, right? You worked out so well that you feel like you're going to be sick. Not anymore. Right? We don't want to do that. Yeah.
No, never. You want to feel invigorated, vitalized, awesome. And that's what exercise is really about.
Yeah, that's awesome. And grab a pal. It's a 2-for-1. You get the extra dopamine boost of being with a friend, and you're both moving. Although zone 2, right? So I think a good way, easy way, zone 2 is walking. Let's say if we're talking about walking at a clip where you can talk to a friend, but you're a little breathy. So, right, we want to get to that level, but not to the point where you can't talk. Yeah?
That's exactly right. I was going to say, bring a friend, because you'll actually figure out your zone 2 by the sheer fact that if you can have a conversation with each other, you're probably in the right zone.
Yeah, right there. But not too easy, right? You want to have a little bit of a something like, there, so you know you're moving.
I can't exactly finish my sentence.
Right.
Just like that.
Just like that. Okay, so next time I'm in New York, you and I are going to do a Central Park zone 2 walk.
Yes, can't wait. Let's do it.
I would love that. All right, how about a couple of tips? I know you've got a gazillion tips here in the book, but what are some of your favorites to help women navigate through menopause and really manage themselves? We talked about exercise and eating well. Those are 2 big ones. But what else do you have in your magic hat to help women during menopause? And that's all the way perimenopause, right, before to post.
It's all about preparation and education. So unless you know exactly who you are and exactly what's happening, you're just not prepared. And so knowing what your risks are, getting those numbers checked, going to your primary care provider. What is my issue? Is it cholesterol? Is it sugar? Is it weight? So you can really figure out how to tailor your life to address your issues. If someone is smoking, that's their thing. That needs to stop. But if that's not your thing, but eating and snacking on the couch every night from 11 o'clock on, focus on what your issues are and what you need to change, and get the data to really, so you really can tweak it and understand the problems. The next thing is, and this is a big one, everyone, sleep. Now,
right, which can be hard to come by.
Especially for many of us who spend a lot of years talking about, oh, I don't sleep, I'm working, the kids, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And we lived a big portion of our lives not getting enough sleep. Now is the time. 7.5 hours of night, focus on sleeping. It is so important. And the same way you might put a child to bed, and bath time and a bottle, and you prepare until it's night. Do that for yourself.
A routine.
You know, give yourself, put yourself on that night routine. So it might help you get sleep. A glass of tea, a bubble bath, and then get into bed. Meditate. Give yourself 45 minutes to really ramp up to get that 7.5 hours of sleep that you might need. The next, and this is critical, stress management. Everyone needs a tool, whether it's meditation, whether it's breathing, yoga, even your exercise, but there has to be something in your back pocket you can pull out when you feel your heart pounding and you get short of breath, that you can say, I got this. And we all need a way to decompress. We all need stress management. Critical.
Huge. I love deep breathing, just, you know, because here I am, this is my third company, but it's stressful growing a company that is fast growing, requires a lot of cash, investors, all those good things. And so I use a box breathing, you know, taking 3 to 6 deep breaths and holding for 4, inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, sometimes 6 on an extra challenging day. That helps a lot. It really does feel like I can calm my nervous system down pretty quickly. So I love breathing because we can do it anywhere. In our at our chair, in the car, before you want to kill somebody or something. You know?
Absolutely. But what's amazing, when you do that, you can feel your heart rate slow down. You can feel everything just slow down. That physiology takes over our brains, and it makes us feel much calmer than we might think we are, because our brains think this is terrible, and our bodies are like, no, it's not so bad. Relax.
Fight or flight. You calm down, everybody. It's okay. Yeah. I love that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Water. Water is critical. Now, this is a huge issue for so many of us. I know in New York, I hear people say, I don't want to drink because I don't want to have to go to the bathroom. Yes, I understand. We all get that. But you have to figure it out. Like, it's really essential and incredibly important. And so many women I see are dehydrated, and that affects your energy levels, headaches, fatigue, migraines, all of these things, not to mention the cosmetic issues. But really, when we focus on how it makes us feel, there are so many women that are suffering from headaches, and all they need to do is drink more water. It's incredibly simple and really prevalent.
Right. It's so important. But let me ask you, so if somebody is taking a hypertension medication or something, a diuretic, then how does that balance with drinking a lot of water? Because isn't the purpose, if you're trying to let go of water and then we're drinking it? So how does that work?
Well, it's a little different the way that it works. We know blood pressure oftentimes is because of sodium. The body is sucking in sodium and the water follows. And so we really want to get rid of that mechanism. If you overdrink water and you're on a diuretic, it's not going to necessarily make you pee it out. It's really focused on that salt part of your body that it really wants to get rid of.
Gotcha. So salt is not really our friend so much as we mature, or if we already have heart disease, or both.
If you have high blood pressure, even a family history of high blood pressure, because oftentimes this runs in families, it's very possible that you're salt sensitive. And when you eat salt, your body just sucks it in and your blood pressure goes up. So you have to really stay away from salt. We recommend for everyone, they eat less than 2,300 milligrams a day. And if you're really salt sensitive, it should be 1,500 milligrams or less.
Which, if you're eating hyper processed foods, you could get that in 1 second. So
like
we have to really read the labels.
three forkfuls
Yeah.
and you're done. So
Yeah.
really pay attention.
Pay attention, eat whole foods as much as
Yeah.
possible. Exactly. Okay, so you were talking about knowing yourself, and I love the fact that you have launched a new app called Adesso, and there's a quiz. So can you tell us about Adesso and what inspired you? And I love that word. You have to say what Adesso means. And so what is Adesso? Why were you inspired to do it? And tell us about the quiz.
So Adesso in Italian, the language of romance, love, and the heart, it means now. And I always say, if the time is not now, I don't know when it is. The reason I say that, I have been a cardiologist with a focus on women and heart disease for 20 years. 20 years ago, we said 1 in 3 women were dying of heart disease. It's 20 years later, and we're saying the same thing. And I said, this is it. This is the time. My time is now to really have an impact on women's heart health in a way that I never have before. And I think for many of us, COVID really shed light on the fact that we have to do things a little differently, and that maybe technology can equal the playing field, and we can get the message out, and we can actually help women all over the world of all walks of life to really have equity of care and to get treatment, diagnosis, and awareness. And so I decided to start a technology company just to do that. We have a forward-facing platform. You're on our platform as an expert and advisor, and I'm so grateful for that, because our mission is to really educate and make all women aware not only of their risk for heart disease, but how to get through it. And thank you for being a part of it. But Adesso.health is our platform. We'd love for you to come on. We ask everyone to tell us what your now is. What's your Adesso, your reason for being healthy and living vital? I always say my now, I want to be snow skiing with my son until I'm 90 years old. So I just have a lot to stay healthy for to do that.
I love it.
But you've got to find your reason. So those days that you wake up that you don't feel like exercising, just remember your now. I think that's so critically important. But we talk about things like nourishment and movement and relate. That's things like relationships and jobs, and refresh, which is about that stress management. What do you do for yourself to stay as healthy as you can be? We have a quiz there. So go on, take the quiz. You'll find out what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. We give you tips on how to get better. We give you the advisors to give you some information about how to get there. But if we don't know who we are, then we're never going to be able to figure out what we need to do for ourselves to get as healthy as possible.
Wow. That's so, it's an awesome app, and the quiz is easy and fun. And I love what you just said, because that's what I think about menopause too. It's calling us back to who we are after years and years of taking care of other people, putting other people first, us on the bottom of the list, like you said. But in menopause and perimenopause, you get called back to yourself, because your body's like, hello, 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 look at me. You know, it's not quiet over there. And that is the time to figure out what our now is again. And the now you had before is probably not the now. So I love Adesso. It's such a beautiful reminder to not forget yourself, to come back, to spend time and take care of your health, but more specifically your heart. It's like the core of everything. Yeah.
I always say we have to live from the heart. And that means a lot of different things to a lot of people. But what it means to me is you figure out exactly who you are, exactly the way you need to eat, the way you need to move and sleep, and all of these things we're talking about to feel the true essence of yourself so you can thrive. At the end of the day, no one else is going to do it for you besides you. And so the more that you can figure it out, the more you get to choose how you want to live your life.
I love
and
that
I think
so
that's
much.
the most important thing, right?
The most important thing. And especially speaking, you said, you know, you want to be vital and skiing with your son when you're 90. And I know you will. I noticed your son's a goalkeeper, right? Soccer goalkeeper.
Yeah.
My son too. And we need to have a strong heart. when our kids are goalkeepers, because being a goalkeeper mom, if anything's going to give you a heart attack, that's it.
I will tell you, I know how it feels when people feel stressed about the small things, if you will, because when my son is in the goal every game, my heart is pounding. I'm trying to box breathe. I am pacing. I am doing all those tools that I am telling you about. And sometimes it's quite frankly very hard.
It's really hard, especially when the game comes down to PKs, right? Oh my gosh, we'll have to speak offline. I was a soccer mom for 15 years at the highest level. So yes, that's why I need to focus on my heart. So I'm glad you're the expert here. So, goalkeeper moms, I have a special place in my heart for us. That's a tough one. All right, so we have this fun saying, menopause like a boss. So what does menopause like a boss mean to you, Dr. Suzanne?
You know, I've been sort of in the forefront of my field in women and heart health. I started 20 years ago when there was no such thing as women and heart disease, believe it or not. We thought women didn't get it. And so my idea of being this boss is no one gets to tell me not what to do. And so I feel like I want to be in control of my menopause and not menopause be in control of me. That's how you do it like a boss. You take control of your body and how you feel. And whether that means hormone replacement, whether that means exercise, no matter what it takes, you stay in charge. That's what it means.
That's menopausing like a boss. Okay, I thought we were going to wrap, but you just said something important that I want to make sure I know somebody listening is going to want to know about HRT and heart and all those things. So we cannot close without that. I almost forgot such an important topic here. So can we talk about that for a second? Because here HRT is now really coming back into the fold as an important tool for the stages of menopause and handling symptoms. And then we've got heart things. So what's your weigh in, please, before we talk about where people can find Adesso?
So there was a large study. Some of you might have heard of the Women's Health Initiative. It was the meanest thing, in my opinion, that ever happened to women. It looked at hormone replacement therapy, and it showed an increase of heart disease and clotting and breast cancer and all these things. It was unfortunately focused on older women and not focused on the most important age range of women, and that's the first 10 years after menopause. And in those first 10 years after menopause, hormone replacement therapy has shown to decrease the incidence of cardiovascular disease. And so I think it's incredibly important that everyone talk to their doctor whether or not hormone replacement therapy is right for them. Right now, the word on the street is less than 60 years old. Within that first 10 years of menopause, it's very helpful to be on hormone replacement therapy. There are multiple different forms, pills, patches, creams. The highest risk comes with pills. The patches and the creams, less risk. There's bioidenticals, different types, but it is worth really investigating hormone replacement therapy because it is actually good for your heart and good for your brain.
Right. And that's the thing. My mom told me never take it because she had some issues and ended up having a hysterectomy in her 40s. So I never thought it was an option for me. So I went through everything naturally. But learning now that hormones are important, estrogen's important for our heart, for our brain health. We need to get that word out there. So don't be afraid, get educated and find out if it's good for you.
Get educated. At the time I made my mother go on hormones as a doctor, and that study came out and she's like, "Are you trying to kill me?" And I was like, "No, no,
I promise.
Hang in there."
Yeah.
But we really, the research came out very slowly and it took years. Yeah. And so let's be the generation that's the real boss over our menopause and take control. And I think hormone replacement therapy is part of that.
Beautiful. Good. Phew, I'm glad we didn't miss that. So, well, and if we do, I hope you come on again because I want to talk more about all these things. We can just go deeper. And I really encourage everyone, if you don't get a book this summer, make sure you get this. Okay, get the whatever you're reading at the beach. You know what I'm talking about. But then get this. This is a gift to yourself. Dr. Suzanne Steinbaum's Heart book. It's so important. It's going to be the most important book you read about your health and about menopause this year. So grab it and then go to Adesso. So tell everybody how they can find Adesso on Instagram and on the website.
Adesso.health. Come on the website and do our quiz and let us know what you think on My Adesso on Instagram. I'm hoping that we can all support each other in this. I think what you've learned, and so many of us know, having a community of women to really support each other is part of this journey. We're all so lucky that we get to do it on Instagram and on social media. So pop on, tell us what your now is, your Adesso on My Adesso on Instagram. And join me on Dr. Suzanne Steinbaum on LinkedIn, and let's continue the conversation.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. You're saving lives. You know that. I know you've saved probably hundreds, thousands of lives over your career. So thank you. And we'll just keep doing the big red heart work, huh? Together.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. To be continued. And I look forward to more Adesso conversations and saving and helping women transition like a boss. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care, Dr. Suzanne. Bye, everyone. Thank you.